What is up, YouTube? My name is Eben, and today I am bringing you a deck I am very excited to bring you. It is a Venusaur Charizard Blastoise deck, and we are featuring the EXs of each. Now, you could run just the inexpensive promo versions, or like me, if you like them so much, you could run the full arts. Well, okay, you can't run the full arts for all of them, but we'll get into that in a second. We're running two of the Venusaur EX with his Poison Powder, which can be conveniently powered up with one of his Grass Energies and then a DCE, a Double Colorless Energy. And then one more Grass Energy, and he can Jungle Hammer. So the option of Poison or Self-Healing. That's pretty cool. Our Charizard of choice is the Combustion Blast Charizard, because once again, these amazing full art promos are just, well, they're amazing. Another 180 HP Behemoth. He takes 3 energy of any kind for his first attack, although it doesn't have a secondary effect. And then he can hit for 150 with his Combustion Blast, which is pretty amazing, although he can't use it 2 turns in a row. But then again, not many things need to be hit for 150 twice for 300 damage. You can pretty much hit for 150 with Combustion Blast and then 60 more with Wing Attack. That's 210 damage. That'll take pretty much anything out. And for the few things that it might not snag, we also run Fighting Fury Belt, so that basically makes that 230 damage because it's adding 10 each of 2 times. So 230 damage kills, well, pretty much just about anything else. But we'll get into that a little bit later, how we're going to be dealing with 2-hit KOing or even 1-hit KOing most threats. Now, we can't run full arts on everybody because the Blastoise EX we're going to run is most definitely going to be the one from Generations. It just makes so much more sense in the deck. His attack costs make more sense, and frankly, it's kind of better than the original one from X and Y. So we're going to be running this guy because he too, for one of his own energy, a water type, and a DCE, can attack for 60 and potentially remove an energy, which is awesome. And then for one more of his own energy type, he gets a nice little 2-hit KO attack in his Hydro Press, which can deal 20 to a benched Pokemon, which can easily set us up for some extra KOs later on down the line. So how on earth are we going to power up these 6 guys? How are we going to build a deck that actually allows these 3 Pokemon who are sort of dedicated to their own energy type? I mean, they're not super heavy into their own energy type, but I mean, on their best attack, each one of them needs 2 of their own energy type to get it going, and yeah, they like to share double colorless energy, but how on earth are we going to get these 3 energy types and these 3 Mons to play well in a single deck that's at least semi-consistent? Well, the answer is, believe it or not, we're going to run in a 4th energy type. I know, madness, but hear me out, because it actually is pretty cool. So this Sableye is the Theta Stop promo Sableye, not too hard to get your hands on, pretty inexpensive. And his energy hunt for a single psychic energy is definitely what we want to do on our first attacking turn. It's not too hard to set ourselves up in this deck, and this allows us to flip 3 coins and for each heads attach a basic energy from our discard pile to our bench Pokemon in any way we want. So yeah, we're talking about Battle Compressor, Professor Sycamore, Ultra Ball, all these things to get a lot of basic energies into our discard pile and then very rapidly power up our EXs on the bench. Even if we only get one of the coins heads, which is less likely than getting either 2 or 3, putting those 2 together, of course, we can still get a pretty nice little acceleration there on that 1 energy. And your opponent has to go through Sableye, and if you were to, say, somehow have 40 extra HP, like with Fighting Fury Belt, you might be able to fire off his attack more than once. This guy is definitely our ideal opening Pokemon, but we can get around using our EXs too, as you'll kind of see here in a little bit. We're also running 2 copies of Smeargle because this guy's second coat is pretty instrumental for us, so that you can attach even the wrong energy type, like say from your hand to your active Pokemon, and then you can switch it out for the right type from your discard pile. So this guy really helps us flex those energy types, and he can even be used, say, with Sableye, so that you can attach the wrong color energy to Sableye, smack Smeargle down on your bench, and then Battle Compress the psychic energy into your discard pile, and second coat it so that you can use your energy hunt to put those other energies you should have Battle Compressed onto one of your big EXs on the bench, which is pretty amazing. Now, of course, another great use for our second coat is Manaphy EX, who's going to help us with those somewhat punishing retreat costs by making water energies just give us free retreats, period. That's awesome. And like I say, with Smeargle, that's great utility, but yeah, just naturally we're going to have those water energies, so that works even without Smeargle's assistance. We're going to be running 2 Shaman EX, because that's really kind of what we've got room for, just to, not only in the size of the deck, but also not overstuffing our bench or anything like that. But once we play out our hand a couple times in Ultra Ball, we're definitely going to want these guys to draw us back into some other cards. And to facilitate all this, we definitely want to run Hoopa. This is our Ultra Ball target, as it will pretty much always be in any deck that runs Hoopa, but still, This guy can pick up a Shaman, pick up the EX you want for the matchup you're in. That's one of the nice things about running this many different Pokemon who can all deal decent damage, is we can type match our opponents. So if they are weak to either Venusaur, Charizard, or Blastoise, our opponents are going to have an unpleasant matchup against us, and that is exactly what we want to capitalize on. Now, moving on to our supporters, we're running 4 Sycamores because, yeah, it draws 7 cards, which is amazing, and it's going to put things in our discard pile, which for us is especially amazing also. We are going to run 1 copy of N just to kind of mess our opponents up when we need to with Versus Seeker, and it's nice drawing in the early game too, to be sure. And like I say, we're going to try to capitalize on our type matchups, or at least getting an attack whose secondary effect is going to be useful against our opponent. And for that, we're definitely going to want to run double Lysander. Even though the deck's a little tight as it is, 2 Lysander are definitely going to help us make the most of our big EXs. And we are also going to be employing Hex Maniac because she does derail a number of things that are pretty important for us to stop. And if you have to, after you fire off all your abilities during your turn, you can fire off your Hex Maniac so that you can shut down your opponent's chance at like an early game Shaman, something like that. You know, all the usual things that Hex Maniacs kind of run for, in addition to, hey, let's break through Carbink, and oh, let's break through Pyroar and stuff like that. You know, we want options. Hex Maniac's good for that. And we do run an AZ. This can recycle a Shaman. Obviously, you're not going to want to recycle Hoopa, but it could get it off your bench if you absolutely have to. But this can also be a good eject button for your active Pokemon, especially if your opponent Lysanders something up in, you know, trying to defend themselves, basically. You can use this as a counter to a Lysander that's meant to stall. So they Lysander up something that doesn't have much energy on it or something like that, and you can easily just go AZ, pick it up, back into your hand, and then get your intended attacker back up into the active slot. So pretty nice, enough utility that you really want to have it. And if worse comes to worse and your opponent say refuses to get rid of your Sableye, yeah, you can always AZ it up if you want to. Now, getting on to the items, we're going to run 4 Versus Seeker for all the obvious reasons, because, you know, retrieving supporters is good. And we're going to run 4 Ultra Balls because discarding energies and extra supporters is nice, and getting things like Hoopa is also really nice, and it's also a good ticket into things like Smeargle that we don't, that aren't EXs, so Hoopa can't go get them for us. So something to keep in mind there. We're going to run 3 Battle Compressors. 4 is a little much, but 3 is going to definitely make sure we hit it relatively regularly, especially since we do run Trainer's Mail. We definitely want to fire these off quickly, and it also lets us set up for Versus Seeker, so we definitely want to capitalize on that for sure. And speaking of Trainer's Mail, we run a full complement of 4. This is just something we really need to run. Can make sure we hit those Sycamores and stuff like that, and it's all about utility. That's what it is. It's all about utility. Speaking of which, we are running 2 copies of Professor's Letter. This can make sure we get the right energy into our hand, either to discard an Ultra Ball if we need to, because, you know, that could be a thing, but also so that we can just attach it straight down. For instance, this can be a great way to get your Psychic energies for Sableye, to make sure you can get him attacking on your first attacking turn in your kind of ideal starting situation. And if not, that letter could help you attack with, say, let's say you start with Venusaur, and maybe that wasn't necessarily the most ideal. You can letter to make sure you have those grass energies in hand without having to rely on, say, Sableye to come in active slot, get his Psychic energy, go retrieve those energies, put them on Venusaur, and then bring him back up. I mean, this way it's a lot more direct. Finally, we are running 3 copies of Fighting Fury Belt. It just makes our already buff 180 HP Pokemon that much more buff, pushing them to a very impressive 220. And the extra 10 is appreciated on a number of them, especially like, say, Blastoise, whose second attack can deal 110 with Fighting Fury Belt, just enough to one-shot a Shaman EX right then and there without having to have any prior damage or anything like that, which is pretty nice. But it can make a number of other Pokemon pretty important, like, let's say, 1 second attack from Blastoise, put 20 damage on 180 HP on the bench, and then Charizard comes in later, and thanks to Fighting Fury Belt, can deal 160 to it for a knockout. Pretty interesting. The math is relevant on this card if you play it correctly, but a lot of times you're just using it for that extra 40 HP to give Sableye longevity or so on and so forth, like we already talked about. All right, now the energy curve. This is where it gets interesting. There's a little more energy than usual, but we do it because we're going to send a lot of it to our discard pile, keep in mind. We got 3 Psychic energy to kind of make sure we can hit it with a little bit of regularity, and it's 1 for each Sableye, even though you're not really going to play each Sableye. That's kind of still the ratio we're going to be using there. And remember, you can always convert these with Smeargle into other things you might need. We've got 3 Grass energy. That's basically enough to get your 1 Venusaur powered up naturally, and then another one to mostly get there 3 is gonna kind of be our theme. It's enough that we can also avoid being hurt too badly by prizing. We'd have to prize 2 of the same energy to not be able to use a second attack on one of our big EXs. We're running 3 fire energy. We're running 3 water energy. You kind of get the drift by now. And finally, we are running 4 double colorless energies, because this really allows us to expedite our attacks and do what we need to do to make this deck really roll. And yeah, that's pretty much the whole deck right there. 16 energy, but it's one of the few times you're not gonna feel, it's not gonna feel like 16 energy. I'm telling you that right now. You're not gonna feel like it's 16. But anyway, that is the deck. It is a heck of a lot of fun, because who doesn't want to play a deck with Venusaur, Charizard, and Blastoise EXs in it? That's awesome. I would do that just to do it, evidenced by the fact that I actually built the deck. But anyway, I'm going to get out of here, so until next time, like, comment, subscribe, check me out on Twitter. Link is below, as always, and I will see you next time.